Hello and welcome to Access Tonight. There is a quiet policy conversation happening in India right now. Sources say that a high-level meeting took place within the Indian government. The pharmaceutical industry was called to discuss the introduction of data exclusivity in India's patent laws. We do not have the full details of what was discussed, but the fact that this meeting happened at all is deeply concerning. First, let me explain what is data exclusivity. When a pharmaceutical company develops a new drug, it generates a lot of data, right? From the laboratory, when the chemical first shows healing properties, then from toxicology studies, which confirm that the drug is safe for human consumption. After that, animal studies are conducted, clinical trials in human beings are held, etc., etc. On the basis of all this science and data, the company is granted a patent over that medicine. The problem starts when the pharmaceutical companies start to separate the data from the drug itself and ask for its protection. They usually demand protection for data for 10 years or so. Now, what does that mean? It means that CDSCO, the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization, India's drug regulator, cannot use that data to evaluate another company's drug. It can do so only after the exclusivity period is over. That is data exclusivity, exclusive protection for the data. It has serious consequences for the production, availability and price of medicines. It works like a patent. In some cases, it's worse. See, it takes years to develop a generic medicine. The companies begin working on a drug much before the expiry of its patent so that they can enter the market as soon as the patent is over. With DE in place, they cannot do that because the drug controller cannot verify their data with the originator company's data. This would delay generic entry even after patent expiry, effectively extending the originator company's monopoly in the market. In some cases, data exclusivity period will extend beyond the patent term. Imagine how long will it take for generic medicine to come to the market then. The company would have to wait for the patent to expire, then wait for the data exclusivity period to end, submit data to CDSCO and then wait for its approval. By the time affordable medicine reaches the patients, years would have been lost even after the expiry of the patent. And this will be a horrific scenario. It seems like pharma companies spend less on innovating drugs and more on innovating ways to bend the law for their greed. Now one may ask, why can't generic companies produce their own data? Why wait at all? So firstly, it would cost enormous amounts of money to repeat the entire trial process, and the cost would ultimately be passed on to the patients. Secondly, and more importantly, it is deeply unethical. Repeating animal trials means putting animals through the same suffering again. In the case of clinical trials on human beings, we have two sets of patients. One who receive the old medicine and other who receive the new medicine that is being tested. The originator company would have already conducted these trials, proving that the new medicine is better. That's how they would launch their new product in the market. Now, despite knowing that there is a better medicine, we will give the older, inferior one to one set of patients to prove the same point again. Every patient deserves access to the best treatment. Repeating trials undermines that principle entirely. Why are we talking about this now? As I said, we have learned that the government has held a high-level meeting with the pharma industry. India has always maintained a stand against data exclusivity. It is these provisions that have helped India's generic industry to grow. Pharma companies of rich countries have always hated this. They have created pressures directly or indirectly through their governments. As India is signing so many new trade agreements with such countries, this pressure is building.
The latest threat is of the India-US Free Trade Agreement. India is currently in talks with the United States on a trade deal, which is expected to be finalized within the next few months. And there is a very real fear that in the process of negotiating this deal, the Indian government will give in to pressures on data exclusivity. If that happens, it will come at a direct cost to India's health security.
But if the government actually believes in Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat, then it should protect its citizens and generic industry and reject data exclusivity in any form.